All right, let's get started. And so one new initiative I want to have us do is to like we talked about this at a management meeting, and I think you all love it. It's like, study one thing like per month or so. So like it might be like a book, or it might be like a documentary, or like a movie like we watched last time. So like some just cool ideas or cool stories that we'll all study for 1 month, and then we'll get together like maybe on a Tuesday and discuss it for an hour. Yeah, so with that, let's talk about the story. So this week we're talking about The Mask. Have any of you seen The Mask, the movie with Jim Carrey, and from like the 90s, right? I remember watching that when I was a kid, and it was cool. It like kind of freaked me out a little bit. So basically the story is, there's this guy, and he's kind of like a weak guy, right? He's not strong. He's not what you say masculine, right? But it's not about just masculine. It's like he's not successful in the way he wants to be in life, right? And he's stuck and he's held back. And so he finds this mask, and finds out he puts the mask on, he gets like these superpowers, right? He becomes this, he went from like really weak to like overly strong, and he's like super strong, and he kind of the kind of stereotypical like too strong person who kind of abuses his powers, right? And becomes corrupt in some way, right? And so, then he learns, from that experience, and kind of finds that balance at the end, right? And that's kind of like the journey of all of us in a sense, right? It's like, we all start out weak as babies, as children, and we learn to like cope with the world and to grow our strengths. And sometimes we kind of go past where we should go, and we learn from those mistakes, right? I mean, I remember being a teenager, like I did so many stupid things, like driving my car way too fast, right? It's like, I have this power now, and I want to like push it to the limit. And then, you learn when you push it to the limit that maybe, you want to set some self-imposed limits on yourself so that you don't take things too far, right? So it's a really interesting story, right? Because it's so archetypal. Like you can look at ancient cultures, and like they all have masks, right? They have like, there's like shamans, and there's like dances, and there's like rituals, and there's people do plays and drama. Like those are ancient things as well. Like, pretending to be something you're not. Like, if you look at any kid, they're always going to pretend to be Batman or superhero or things like that, right? So my nephew Eli, he loves being Spider-Man, right? And when he's Spider-Man, like he's not Eli anymore. He's Spider-Man, right? So if I can be like, hey, Eli, it's time to eat. He's like, no, Spider-Man doesn't eat, right? like he's no longer Eli. He's Spider-Man because he's wearing that mask, right? And psychologically, it's called a persona, right? So it's when a persona is like when you are in a character, right? And we're almost always in a persona, right? So it's like your personality in that moment. It's like the mask that you wear. It's like who you're being in that moment, right? And so when Eli is Spider-Man, he's no longer Eli, right? Like he becomes that persona, and you can't talk to him as if he's Eli, right? Because he's in that, unless you like break that persona somehow, he's not going to respond to you, right? And you've probably seen this in so many situations in your life, right? Like if you go to the bank and you're talking to the bank teller, and you're like, okay, you're depositing your checks and doing your business. Like it's very like business oriented. Like you just follow, like if you stop and be like, hey, like how are your kids? And like how, and it's like, that's not an appropriate conversation in that environment, right? And some places, like in a small town or in a culture where people are more like friendly or familial, it is, right? But usually when you're talking to a stranger in a bank, you're not having those kinds of conversations, right? Because you're in that persona, you're in that mode, right, of getting things done. So personas can be really valuable, right? Because in a sense, it kind of limits who you are, right? So when you're a bank teller, you're limited to this very narrow band of acceptable activity, right? And same thing like socializing. Like when you go to a party, you kind of put your party face on, and you act nice, and you act politely, and you act interested in other people. Like you're not just being like a selfish jerk all the time, right? Even though we all know we could act that way, right? Because this is not the right persona for that environment. So personas are super valuable because by limiting our behavior certain ways, they allow us to get things done, right? To accomplish a certain result and to work together, right? Because if everyone was just being, Eli, a 6-year-old kid all the time, a lot of things, it'd be kind of challenging to work together, right? It'd be challenging to accomplish certain things. So personas are super valuable, but, like the mask, right? It gives you certain strengths, but it also has certain weaknesses, right? So every persona comes with its strengths and weaknesses. And I read a book a while back, and I forgot to look back on what the title of the book is, but it was created by like a really successful actor and acting teacher. And he talked about how he would, take people through improv, right, and train them how to become really great improv artists and really great actors. And one of the exercises he would do is have people wear masks. And because what he found was that if someone like sucked at improv, couldn't do acting, he could give them a mask, and it like gave them that superpower like Eli has when he's Spider-Man. Right? It gives you this, like, it changes your persona, and sometimes instantly, and you probably experience this in your own life too. Like, if you put like a business suit on, or you put like a really nice dress on to go to like a fancy event, like all of a sudden you're a different person, right? Like you just feel different, and like people treat you differently, right? Just because of what you wear or how you look, right? And as he found that, you could take someone who's really, really shy, and you give them like a big scary mask, and all of a sudden like they're being loud and they're being obnoxious, and they're like, it's like a totally different person came out of there, right? And the really interesting thing about human beings, right, is like we have unlimited potential, right? So, I mentioned before about like good and evil, like we all have good and evil inside us, right? Like you can be as bad as Hitler, and you can be as good as Gandhi, right? Like you can be we all have that potential, right? And same thing, like we can all be really mean, and we can all be really loving. Like we can hate and we can love. Like we can be selfish and we can be super giving, right? And you probably noticed that in your own life. Like there's times when you're like, I was way too mean to that person. Why did I do that? I'm such a jerk. And other times when you're like, wow, I'm just giving way too much. Like I'm just being too nice to people. I really need to stick up for myself, right? And so we all kind of go through those shifts in life, right? Sometimes we push too far in one direction or the other. So we all have this unlimited potential. And what he found was that like putting on that mask, putting on that persona could help people tap into that potential that they hadn't been accessing before, right? And I don't know if this is something you guys have noticed, but I've noticed like there's a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there's some people who like are super like held back. Like they might be really shy. Like I used to be super shy. You probably can't tell that now, but I used to be like so shy. Like I couldn't walk across the room and talk to anyone when I was like a teenager. But there's some people who are just like super reserved. Like they're held back. Like they're not really expressing themselves, and you can tell like they don't really tell you what they think, and they're not really participating. Like if you're in a group environment, they're not really talking and speaking up. And so what he found is you could take someone like that and give them a certain kind of mask, and they would act in a totally different way, right? So you can think of a persona like that as like a tool, right? It's like a tool to access parts of yourself, right? To behave in certain ways, to get certain results, to express parts of yourself that you might not otherwise be able to express, right? And that's one of the reasons why like it's so great to have like a really good friend, right? Who you can just kind of like drop your mask with, just be yourself. You can like cry, like they're not gonna like judge you. You can just totally be yourself, and kind of take off that mask. And like that's just like so freeing as a human being, because like if you always have to wear a mask, like eventually you get really tired, you get really burnt out, right? So like we all wear masks like all the time. We're always in some kind of persona. We're never accessing every part of ourselves, right? Because like when you're being loving, you're not being hateful, right? And you can't just be loving 24/7, right? If you find people who like love too much and like don't have like that hate, or like not hate, but like they don't have like, they're not dangerous. Like they don't have like viciousness inside them, right? It's like, like a mama bear. Like a mama bear will protect their cubs. Like you see a bear in the wild, like they're so peaceful. I've seen bears in the wild, like they're just chill. And then all of a sudden you like get in front of their cubs, and like they will kill you, right? It's the same thing with humans, right? It's like, people will go really far to protect their kids, right? Like, a mom can be totally nice and everything, and then all of a sudden, teacher gives her child an F, and she will just attack, right? Right. And that's good. Like it's, obviously you don't want to like go too far with it, but you need to have both sides. You need to kind of have that balance. You need to know when to attack and defend and protect your family, and when to, be loving and kind and get along with people. Right. So, we all wear masks in different places. Like, in our job, we might wear a certain kind of mask, like to get stuff done. In our family, we might have cultural roles we follow. We might have emotional roles or states. Like sometimes we're depressed, sometimes we're really excited, sometimes we're playing sports. Sports is a really interesting one for me, because I love sports, right? And it's, like when I'm playing spike ball and like we're in the middle of a game, like don't ask me like how my week was. Like no, like we're playing. Like stop talking, we're playing, right? It's like because it disrupts like what's going on there, because the game is like it's really interesting to look at games with the humans play, right? Because it's it's all made up. Like we make these rules. Like you have to hit the ball a certain way. Like your basketball has to go in the net. It doesn't go in the net, it doesn't count. Or it's like who made that up? It's like such a stupid thing if you think about it, like from the bigger perspective, right? But when you have these limitations, it becomes so much fun because then everyone is trying to achieve a certain thing, right? And so like having those limitations, having those masks allows us to have fun, right? It allows us to be ourselves. It allows us to express parts of ourselves that we might not be able to express otherwise, right? And so you have to like know like when to wear the right mask in the right situation, right? Because like that guy who like you're playing basketball and stops to talk about, you know, how you're doing is like he's ruining the game. Like you're ruining the game, dude. Like don't do that, right? So and we all and like you can think about everything as a game, like working together as a team, like that's a game. Like we made up the rules of like, you know, I'm the CEO and Sarah works on projects management, right? It's like, but they're just made up rules, right? Like we all decided like to play this game together, right? And we can change the rules anytime we want, right? So, but having the rules, having the structure allows everyone to have like clarity. So it's not like, well, we all just work together, but no one knows what anyone does. Like that's really confusing. Like it's just, there's not enough limitation there to make it a rewarding work environment, right? So one thing we're going to do is a writing exercise soon. And so just start to be thinking about like, you know, what masks are you wearing? What roles are you playing in your life in different areas of your life? And what roles have you played in the past in different areas of your life? And how has that changed as you've grown up? Like, right? Because like when you're a kid, like that's a mask. Like, why do people treat kids differently? Right? You think about like an 11-year-old is just as smart as like a 30-year-old. Like they don't have as much experience. Like they're just as capable of learning anything or doing lots of things. Right? But we treat them totally differently, right? Because they have a different persona and we perceive them differently. So there's lots of things you can do to change your mask or your state, right? So you can change how your clothes, you can change like your posture. So there's lots of research on like, you know, the Superwoman pose. I don't know if you guys can see me, but like, you know, you put your arms on your hips like this and, you know, you puff your chest out and like, and research shows that actually like changes your hormones. It changes how you feel and you become more, so you do that for like 60 seconds, like you're going to be more positive. You're going to feel more confident. So you're ever like scared or like you need to go into an important meeting or have a, you know, a scary conversation with someone, like, you know, puff your chest up, do the Superwoman pose and science shows it'll help you perform better. Right. So how we use our body can change how we feel, change our state, change our mass. Right. So Tony Robbins talks about this a lot, like state management. Right, which is like managing your emotions, right? Managing your body in a way that you can get the results you want, right? Because if you're trying to achieve a complex goal and you're like depressed and sad, like it's going to be really hard to be productive, right? But if you can just change your body, change your breathing exercises are like an ancient thing that people have been practicing for thousands of years to change their state, to change how they feel so that they can behave differently, so they can get better results or different results, right? So you can use your breathing to like pump you up, like fire breathing in yoga, like, right? Right? It's like you get pumped up doing that. Like do that for 60 seconds, and like you'll be energized, right? Or you can be like really slow, like big in and out breaths, like really slow, and just get like super calm and relaxed and like take a nap, right? So you can change your body. Like you have these tools, like with our body, like we can change how we use our body to change how we feel, to change the results we can get in life, right? So, and your state and the mask you're wearing is going to dramatically influence the results you get, right? Because we talked about like if you have the wrong mask at the wrong time, you're not going to get the results you want, right? So if there's an area of your life where you're like, I'm stuck, I'm not getting the results I want, take a look at like what masks have you been wearing and like what mask would you need to wear to get those results, right? So I've been thinking about this and like how it relates to like customer support, right? Because customer support is such an interesting issue, right? Because you know, we've all had the experience of like being angry, being upset, not getting what we want, like, you know, being on the wrong flight, and you go to the person, you're like, hey, I need to get on the right flight. Can you help me? And there's a couple of ways that person can respond, right? And I think the most typical and best way for them to respond usually is like, okay, I'm the person in charge of this. I'm going to solve the problem for you. Let me see what I can do. And they go in the computer and they fix it. And then they give you your ticket and you're happy, right? So they don't really have to be compassionate. They just have to solve your problem, right? But if they can't solve your problem, well, they better be compassionate, right? Like if the persona fails and they can't solve your problem, they have to like be human at least. Be like, you know, I'm so sorry. You know, that really sucks that your flight got canceled. There's nothing I can do. and like, at least they're being human, right? And at least you can like, you're not happy because your problem isn't solved, but at least you feel like someone understands you and you're not crazy. You're not super angry about that, right? The worst thing they can do is keep the mask on and not solve your problem, right? If they do that, you're going to be pissed, because then they're just going to be like, I'm sorry, sir, that's against our rules. That's, our company policy. You can't do that, right? And then you just feel like, okay, not only is this person not being a real human with me, but they're not solving my problem. And that's just really, really frustrating, right? It's like they're not playing by the rules of like either the game, which is like, the game of business, and they're not playing by the rules of like the game of humanity of like, just being an honest human being with you, right? And so it's like that's like the worst thing to do, right? So, in a lot of areas of life, we have the same choice, like with friends, with family, like with work, with anything you're doing. It's like, either you can like wear that mask of like get stuff done and help people and like fix the problem, or you can like be really human. And like, I think the best people like do both, right? It's like you're somehow able to transcend the mask, where like, you're able to like, be productive and solve problems and help people out, but also to like listen to them and like have empathy and have compassion and like really show that you care about them, right? Like that's like the perfect, right? It's like, and we respect people like that. Like you really respect someone who has that compassion, has that empathy, has that humanity, but also like crazy, super productive and like really helpful and like solves problems for people, right? Like that's a person who's respected in our society, and for good reason, right? Because they're playing the game well. They're playing the game of life well. They're playing the game of being human well, right? So a couple of things you can do to change your state. So smile. All right, there's lots of research. You just smile. Like even if you're like not happy, like there's no reason to smile, just smile. It actually does change how you feel. Like physiologically, it changes your body, it changes how you feel, it changes your hormones. Laughing. There's this whole thing called laughter yoga. I think everyone should do a laughter yoga class once in their life. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. You just get with a big group of strangers and start laughing like ha 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 ha, ha, like all these different weird laughs that you would never do normally. And it just changes how you feel. Like you cannot be the same person walking out of the class that you walk into that class as. Like it'll just completely change how you feel, right? And in a good way, right? Like you're gonna feel lighter, you're gonna feel different, you're gonna feel better. Other things you can do to change your state is like think differently, right? So just focus, like change what you're thinking about, change what you're focusing on, right? If you're focused on all the bad things that are gonna happen, focus on like, what can I do about it? It's like change your perspective. Another thing that's really interesting is like spirit animals, right? Like you can kind of like visualize or like channel stuff. Like I don't know, sometimes I visualize like my spirit animal is like a lion, right? And it's like if you just close your eyes and like picture a lion and like, picture like you're looking in a mirror and there's a lion there, like you're gonna feel like, yeah, I'm gonna take on the world. Like I can kick, like you're gonna be excited. You're gonna feel like ferocious and strong, right? But then think about like a turtle. Like you're looking in the mirror and like now you're a turtle, and I'm thinking like, oh, I'm just laying on a log in the lake and I'm so relaxed, and right. It's like I love watching turtles. Like they're hilarious and they're super relaxing to watch because they move so slow and they're really cute. I just like turtles. But like if you just like literally just visualizing something like that, visualizing an animal, visualizing a mask, a character, something like that, it will change how you feel, right? And you can kind of like live into that vision in some sense, right? It And like so like Olympic athletes, like they'll visualize stuff, like they'll visualize all kinds of things, like they'll visualize winning, they'll visualize the race, and they found that people who visualize, like the same neurons in your brain fire, and so people can visualize shooting free throws in basketball, and people can actually shoot free throws in basketball, and they can get the same level of improvement in their performance, right? So people just sitting on their butts not doing anything can improve their free throw shooting, right? You can improve your writing that way, right? Like, I don't know, Jennifer, I'm sure Jacob, you know this too. Like, you can be in the shower and just thinking about your writing and like become a better writer. You're not doing anything, you're just thinking, but you can actually use those neurons in your brain and map, like create more order and more of what you want to create just by thinking about it, right? I have a friend who's super successful entrepreneur. He's coming out with a new book called The Alter Ego Effect with a major publisher, got a huge publishing deal on it. And he's talked about that before in our mastermind group about like, he's got his business alter ego, right? So like, on his date, and when he's just hanging out with his family, he's just Todd's just a regular guy, right? And then he gets in business and he puts his glasses on. I don't think he even needs glasses. He just puts glasses on because like that's his character, right? And all of a sudden he puts his glasses on, he's multimillionaire Todd, just doing business, right? He's just a different, it just helps him get in that state where like he can be confident, right? And he can be the leader he needs to be to get the job done, right? So think about that. Like if you need to create like there's nothing wrong with that, right? So a lot of times we think about like a mask is like fake, right? So like if you're wearing a mask, you're fake. And sometimes that's true, right? Sometimes you know people like they're just being inauthentic. They're just pretending to like you when they really don't. They're pretending to be nice when they're really not nice people, right? You know what I mean? But that's not what this is about. This is about like creating a character for yourself that's actually like empowering, that's like actually authentic, that actually helps you get what you want and does it in the right way, like true to yourself, right? So it's not like being fake. It's really just like changing your thoughts, changing your behavior, changing your body so you can get better results, right? So that might help some of you, is like creating like that alter ego of like like, you know, that person you need to be in that situation to get the results you want that's best for the world, right? And you can do this in a way that's totally true to yourself, right? So it's not about being fake, right? It's not about being authentic. It's not about lying to people, right? It's just about trying something different to see if you can get better results in a good way. And the final thing I would say about this is like, just be careful like the personas you play in life, right? Because like some people wear like the same mask for so long they forget who they are, right? And that's the story, like the mask of the movie, right? The guy's just such a jerk for so long he kind of forgets who he is, right? And you see that, you know, and we've talked about this before, like, you know, that stereotypical business guy, works all the time, forgets about his family, wonders why he doesn't have a good relationship with his family, right? It's like, you know, you're wearing that mask for too long, you never take it off. You know, you can't expect to have good results. Hey, Jethro. All right, so be careful of the personas you play. Be careful of the masks you wear. Like, know when to take them off. Know when to adopt a different role. All right. Because if you're one-dimensional, then lots of other areas of life are going to be out of balance, right? And if you want to watch a documentary about it illustrates this like so well, there's one called Jim and Andy on Netflix by Jim Carrey, and it is just mind-blowing. It's hilarious and mind-blowing. But like he gets into like, you know, he's in a movie and he's playing out these roles and he just like becomes the character, and like he's no longer Jim Carrey, like even off the set, and like he's like throwing stuff at people and like he gets like beat up because he's just being a huge jerk because he's like stuck in this character, right? And I'm sure you've seen situations in your own life where you saw other people or maybe yourself like stuck in a character, and later on you realize, or that person realizes like that's not who they really wanted to be in that situation, right? So yeah, so I hope this is helpful for you guys. So let's do a quick writing exercise and then love to hear your thoughts. You know, I think the goal of having a mask is not to look good, right? And I think that's how a lot of people abuse a mask, right? They have the mask to look good. And I know I've done that so many times in my life. Like, I'm not perfect, right? But like, you know, we wear the mask we think people will want us to wear so that they will like us, right? And I think the better way to wear a mask is to wear the mask to get the results that you want to achieve your goals and to help people and to make the world better, right? I think that's the way to do it. And like, who cares what people think about you, right?